It's everyone's favorite chart to pontificate over, and that is Bitcoin dominance. Now, a few weeks ago, we were looking at this chart as likely to pull back. I wanted to follow up on that as we head into this next sort of month spread here. And other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. Holy moly, my friends, I've seen the best movie, the best World War II movie, or the best war movie I think I've ever seen ever last night, which was Downfall. Absolutely insane, absolutely incredible. And I think I'll be watching it again tonight. It was so damn good. It's up there, at least with my other favorite, which is All's Quiet on the Western Front. Anyways, other than that, I think we should just get right on into this one. This one will be nice and short and sweet, at least hopefully, and we can jump right on over here to the bi-weekly time frame for Bitcoin dominance. So this one's going to be closing tomorrow, and there's a couple things of significant interest as of right now. First and foremost is going to be the bi-weekly RSI, which is about to be kicked out of the bullish control zone and below, in closing below the moving average, the exponential moving average in this case, simultaneously as well. And we can see that there is a nice little head and derp over here with a left shoulder head and right shoulder, presumably with the neckline pretty much right at the edge of the bullish control zone. So assuming that things do kind of hang here or lower into tomorrow night's closure, yeah, I would be looking at that as a confirmation and very likely for this one to continue to pull back. So I believe the last video we did on Bitcoin dominance was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were saying, hey, Bitcoin dominance long-term bullish, yes, but short-term likely to pull back. And I'm still kind of looking at it in the same vein right here. How far can this one pull back? Well, we already hit the the 49% region, which was kind of like a first soft target. But ultimately, the areas that I'd really be looking for this one to potentially put in a low at are still 48.5% and 47.5%, respectively. Now, there is a potential here. There is, as always, a potential for everything, right? It's just what's like the probability, what's the likelihood of it happening. But there is potential here for this one to completely reverse and to make fools out of some of the more, let's say, enthusiastic Bitcoin dominance enjoyers, which would be any sort of a closure below about 4680. If that does happen on this pullback, this is not just going to be a pullback, it's going to be a reversal, and we very likely do see this one fall back down to the low 40s. But still, I do remain with my long-term bullishness on this one, and I'm just kind of looking at this as a pullback respectively. Anyways, moving on now, I do want to get into, yes, stochastic momentum over here. A couple things of interest is going to be first on the weekly time frame. This one is going to be continuing with downside momentum as long as it is below 50.25. The bi-weekly time frame is going to be losing the edge of the critical bullish extreme zone and also the moving average on this one as well, assuming that tomorrow does close below 51.5. And the monthly is also going to cross to the downside, assuming that it stays below 49.43. Again, in the critical zone right here, which actually is where the last major top was called in October of 2019. Yes, it did spike there yet again in December of 2020, so almost a year later, but no higher highs were had on a closing basis in this case. And well, I mean, only one time in history doesn't really make me super confident with it, but that would also kind of play into, hey, this might not just be a pullback, it might actually be a reversal. I still remain with my reversal conditions, however, either a weekly below 4680 or a monthly, are we on a monthly right here? Yeah, or just any sort of a monthly closure below the June upside move, which would be 47.25, would do it for me. And at that point, it's gonna be a very humbling experience, I think, for a lot of people if that does happen. Maybe not a lot of people, but certainly a few certain people. Anyways, so we can also go into the total 2 chart. I know a lot of people hate the Bitcoin dominance chart for whatever reason. It seems to actually, let me spend one more second here. So a lot of people seem to hate it because blah 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 blah. It doesn't work. Well, I mean, it does fucking work. Like, is this not a low? Is this not a high? I mean, it does play rather technically. That's just silly thing. It's always like these fundamental herp and derps that try to make a mountain out of a fucking meme hill and don't realize the practicality of what's actually in front of their fucking face. Sorry. Fucking fundamentals. The fundamental and the macro herp and derps, herpity derpities. It's just so silly. It's like, look, you can come up with any sort of reasons that you should discount this chart, but at the end of the day, it fucking works. It fucking works. Okay. It fucking works. It's like, I'm not paying attention to it because blah, 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 blah. It's like, all right, fair enough. But yeah, long-term, assuming that this pullback does just bounce somewhere in, above like 47.5, percent, I still would be remaining long-term bullish, to be fair, and still looking at a targeted region somewhere around like 58%, maybe even 62%, still coming within the next, let's say, like, what's it called, 6 months to a year. Gonna take a long time, as these things typically do, but these charts are still more or less putting in a major low. So for the point, for the moment now, still probably like another, I'd suspect like another month of pullback into September, and then if it is going to be bullish, we'd expect a move to the upside in October, and nothing less than the levels that we outlined earlier. Anyways, we move on now to total 2. I do think that there's a couple interesting things going on right here. Not with the 6-month chart. Actually, now that I look at the 6-month chart, kind of plays hand in hand with my long-term view. It's like it's going to go lower in the short term, but the lows are very likely already in. I actually didn't check this one before doing my notes for this video, which is why I'm a little bit stunned right there. But does play really, really nicely with that. But in the short term, just like we spoke about, likely to come to the downside. Bi-weekly time frame. Second drive of hidden bearish divergence about to be populated again, closing tomorrow night. Anywhere here or lower will do it for me. And at that point, have to be looking for this one to return back down to like 469, 465 billion-ish region. Bi-weekly jewel also can be showing some downside here as well. So what does that mean? It means that alts are probably going to get a pullback just in general, but that pullback likely does put in a higher low. Long term, still nothing really bullish here as long as it's below about 700 billion, but it can take a lot of time. Again, higher term timeframes, I do still look at this as more or less likely put in a low right here. So this pullback should still maintain above the current, the current lows that were in about December of last year. Thus, you might even call that an opportunity. I'm sure a lot of people are going to call this a ascending triangle. There is some merit to that, definitely, but obviously, in order to complete that, you need to actually break the lows. At that point, yeah, we can start to talk about major massive pullbacks, probably to 300 billion. But for the time being, I think that this is kind of like the tricky part of the market. I think a lot of people are going to get very, very bearish when that does pull back a little bit more, not recognizing that that's probably the last opportunity if I had to guess. I can obviously be wrong about these things, but looking at the 6 month for total 3 here as well. Same thing, actually. Same thing. So, and of course, the same sort of signatures here on the bi-weekly time frame. Not as weak, to be fair, which is actually rather interesting because you'd expect this one to be a little bit weaker than total 2 because total 2 does include Ethereum, whereas this one does not. So that's, I would expect Ethereum to be pulling up the averages here, but apparently it's weighing them down. Maybe it includes more other things as well. But in this case, short term, probably another move to the downside, assuming that it does close here or lower tomorrow. Maybe around the current lows, but granted, the higher term time frame, still looking at this as generally speaking a long-term opportunity, monthly time frame, just based off that 55 exponential average. So, I do look at this as more or less a consolidation range. It can go on for a lot longer, obviously, but I do think that that's gonna very likely be the next opportunity. I know it sounds fucking crazy, but that's what it looks like to me. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Is a pullback or not? More. Obviously we haven't looked at really any charts of Bitcoin on this particular video. I guess we can just quickly go through the herp and derp ranges over here and then go through stochastic momentum. What do you know? They haven't changed. Hasn't changed a fucking bit. Even the LARP lines are almost 1-in-1 on them right there. Not bad, man. Not bad. Still showing the top side of the range, basically around this week's high at about 26,750. Bottom side of the range around the, what was this last week's low? 25,350 or so. Anything between there doesn't really do shit for me. As I've been saying for a while now, the more and more sideways this one does go for another week now, I would be saying if it can maintain sideways for another week above the current low, that's at the point where I'm really going to start to expect a nice bounce to the upside, significant bounce to the upside, probably somewhere around mid 27s, if I had to guess, at least. So, yeah, good place for me to be leaving off on this video. Nice and short and sweet, hopefully. Other than that, I want to wish you well. I want to wish you the best of us as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Sunday.